McLaughlin here, Midwest Market Management. I've got Riley Sykart on with me here today, and we're going to jump into U.S. weather from a national yield perspective. Riley, I was out traveling for work last week. You'd had to fly solo here a bunch. You got all the fun reporting. Now I come back in, at least from the market potential, and we're going to put a little water on this thing, it looks like.
Yeah, we got bullish while you were gone, and now that you're back, we got to put the brakes back on. So
Yeah.
you just got to be the Debbie Downer today.
Might be. You could also look at it as maybe it's a little good luck bringing some rain to some very needed areas.
Yeah, that's probably the better way to look at it. But moving in here, first thing I got, crop conditions came out yesterday, being pretty widely discussed. Corn conditions down 4%. For us, as we've been watching weather pretty close, I don't think this comes as a shock to either of us, Clint. You tell me if you disagree.
Yeah, alignment with what we're expecting. I guess I'm a little surprised maybe to see the jump in Iowa, but we did have, no extreme heat or anything, but that's an interesting jump there.
Yep, I agree. Soybean conditions side of things, very similar to corn, except I would say even the eastern belt declining on the beans, which I find kind of interesting. But as a whole, conditions starting to decline, and that's from hot, dry temperatures that we talked about for 2 to 3 weeks, and now we're more towards the back end of it than the front end. And going forward, you kind of already preluded to it, but we got some rain coming here Thursday, Friday, it looks like in the forecast. So before we get there, though, last 13 days of rainfall, as we know, Eastern Belt got some rains, Western Belt, not much. It shows in there was some spotty showers, so it adds some color into the map, but the reality is it was a very hit or miss thing, and especially in the Western Belt, they mostly got missed for the last 2 weeks straight. So moving ahead here, 1 to 5 day temperatures. Still, I'm going to say warm, especially as you look in that Western Belt, upper 80s, lower 90 temperatures. I would not say are cool by any means, but compared to what we were seeing a week to 10 days ago, definitely not what it was. 85 is ideal, 90 to 95 is not scalding hot. But 90 plus degree temperatures when you're already really dry is causing stress. And that's why we've seen the declines in corn and bean ratings. So 6 to 10 day temperatures actually looking to cool off a little bit more, especially as you go east. A lot of temperatures averaging in the low 80s to mid 80s. So temperatures cooling off a little bit in the 6 to 10. And the big change, and the one we're spending the most time on today, 1 to 5 day precip. Yesterday, weather models were not fully in agreement as to amounts, but today both the GFS and the Euro are showing pretty good amounts of rain Thursday through Saturday for really the driest area in the growing region. Eastern South Dakota, Southwest Minnesota, Northwest Iowa, Northeast Nebraska. The area that has been the driest is looking to potentially be getting inch to 2+. So to me, that's definitely a game changer from a national yield perspective and market perspective. From the national yield, I'd say if these rains materialize, it puts the brakes on declining the yields. I don't think we're at the point where you start adding yield back in, but are we stopping the bleeding with this rain? I would say yes, if it materializes.
Yeah, and you're also going to at least slow down the what if scenarios. We were really borderline there with traders starting to look at balance sheets and saying, yeah, we're going to have, 310, 330 million ending stocks. That's on a 53 bushel yield. and they were starting well, what if we come in at 52? What if we come in at 51? Oh my gosh, what if we come in at 48? And, that gets traders a little bit riled up on the bull side of things. And if nothing else, you would think if this rain materializes, it's going to slow that race down for the private estimates to just keep ratcheting yields lower.
Agreed. And I talked about it last week while you were gone. I would say the amount of stress caused, Clint, you tell me if your thoughts disagree. I'd say at this point, trend line would be pretty tough to achieve, and above trend line at this stage in the game with the amount of stress caused, especially on the corn side of things, I'd say is going to be pretty tough. I'm not going to say impossible, but I guess I'm at the point in the year where I'm not seeing the potential to have a 184 or 185 type of corn yield.
I would tend to agree with that. I think the jury's still out on the soybeans, and don't get me wrong, I was getting pretty friendly beans here for a bit, but one of the things I've witnessed over my career is when you stress those beans out pretty hard before, in late June, July time period, and you catch those timely rains, there's a lot of times where come harvest, these farmers are just scratching their head, wondering how in the world that they did so well. So there's something about stressing those beans out before they go to work, flowering and setting pods, and doing their end game, which usually is late July into August. So this is a pretty timely rain for the soybeans, and I think where the corn it's more of a maybe the damage was done. It's going to be interesting to see how these beans shake out in these dry areas that got stressed early on.
Thanks for that. That's pretty good perspective there. Move ahead here into the 6 to 10 day. After those rain showers come through, Eastern Belt looks to be getting a little bit more spotty showers, especially Ohio, southern Indiana. And still 6 to 10 day, I'd like to point out Minnesota and some of South Dakota have the chance to get more rain. 7/10 doesn't go that far, especially when they're as dry as they are. But we'll have to watch and see as that turns into the 1 to 5. How does that look on the front end of the forecast? Are they going to grow that rain, or is it going to disappear from the forecast that we got to start immediately thinking back to those areas needing another shot of rain? So looking pretty close overall. You mentioned national yield perspective, gave some pretty good insight there. I'd say from a market perspective, I'm not going to say that we lost all the wind in the sails, but I'd say this range pattern coming through in that 1 to 5 and the 6 to 10 showing some at least potential for some more rain and cooler temperatures. That keeps me from getting wildly bullish.
I would agree with that.
With that said, final map of the day is the 1 to 13 day. You can see across the board until you get to the southern growing areas, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas. Not a lot of rain in the next 2 weeks for those regions, but everywhere else, including the Dakotas and going all the way to the Eastern Belt, everybody's looking to get some kind of rain in the next 2 weeks. So I guess that's all I got, Clint. There's rain in the forecast. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah, and more importantly, there's rain in the 2-day forecast. So we're going to see where we end up here the end of the week, and then we'll roll into next week, and we're dealing with the first week of August. So we're getting down there. They'll be starting harvest down in the south here before too long. A lot of it may already be underway, but I know I've got some producers even in as far north as Kentucky that are starting to clean up the combine and get things ready to go. So she'll be a season before we know it. We'll be back on here. Today's Tuesday, so we'll be back on Thursday to see how we're doing. Maybe we can look at some radar maps along the way that day to kind of see how things are shaking out for the rain that's supposed to be coming Thursday, Friday. So appreciate everybody tuning in again. Clint McLaughlin, Riley Sykard, Midwest Market Management. Thanks a lot and have a good day.